What's up, fellow lords of gaming, and welcome back to another episode of Marvel Future Fight. So I wish I had better news for you today, but I don't. So let's jump into this really quickly. All right, so as you know, with the latest Wakanda Forever update, we basically got an update on a lot of other gameplay items along with the legendary battle. We got the CTPs of Reforging for Rage and Refinement, or Egg, right? Now, the problem with the CTP of Rage was that it looks very great at the outset, right? It was, and to be honest with you guys, I had to redo this video, so I'm going to let you guys know some information about it, right? It looked pretty good from the outset, right? Is that you were basically looking at CTP of Rage. Sorry, I got to make sure I grab one and pull it up here. You were basically looking at a CTP of Rage. I thought I had one in here. No, I don't. Okay, let's go back over here to one of my teams because I know my man Black Bolt's got one. Yeah. So we had these CTP of Rages, right? And now the really cool part about the CTP of Rage is that when you looked at it, there was going to be a Mighty CTP, and you were basically going to get, if you had a Mighty CTP, it was going to be like 80% bonus inside there. And if you had a Brilliant CTP, then it was going to be 130%. Well, players, it got instituted, and there were whales who went out there and whaled out on CTPs of Rage, and they've got these things, and it wasn't working. It was not working the way that, you know, you would assume that it should have been working. Like, the differences were very negligible, if any at all. And unfortunately, this prompted a response from Netmarble, right? The Marvel Future Fight dev team went into full swing, and they issued a server patch. And you can see that here. So I think, what is it? So they basically had a server patch where they put the CTP of Reforged effects, they changed them, and then they applied this notification for players to basically read through. And you can see here, this is their response to the issue, right? Is that after the November update, here's some information on CTP Reforged effects. They did a thorough investigation of the inquiries regarding the CTP of Rage Reforged effects, but have not found a significant issue. It's not working. And if it's working the way they intended, and we the players don't understand something, then that's on them for not introducing this to us the proper way. But it is not working as we should expect it to be intended. If I see 100 and 200% increase in my CTP of Rage effect, meaning that it's on top of the max 200% that I can get now, that's 400% worth of critical damage. So I should see some lasting effect for when that triggers. That means more damage, but that's not what's happening. Like, if players are using characters that they've already had CTP of Rages on and still running the same experiments, still running the same times against World Boss and Dormammu's and things like that, then it's obviously not working. Something's not there. The numbers are off. Maybe they need to go back, because you've clearly done this twice now in terms of looking at it, because you had this pop up when we were looking at Hulk. You had this pop up when we were looking at Black Bolt, and now with the CTP. So you might want to consider taking some deep dive into the numbers there. But basically, they investigated, they found no issue. So that should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. But accordingly, we are putting a weight on the balance between each CTPs, and they have gone through careful discussions when adding the CTP of Rage as well. However, after more discussion on how to make the gameplay more enjoyable to our agents, we have decided to improve the CTP of Rage Reforged effects. Please check the notes below. So it wasn't working when it was the before, where you could basically get the enraged effect for 80%, an additional 40% of concentration. So they increased it to 130% and 60% of, excuse me, I'm lying to you guys here. It was increased to 200% regardless of the max limit, and an additional 40% of concentration. On a Brilliant, it was increased from 130% to 300% regardless of the max limit. Now, the problem with this is that even after that huge jump, it's more than doubled in there, right? Even after that huge jump, it's still either underperforming or not performing as is, because you have streamer after streamer, you have whale after whale who has taken the time to invest in this, because this is not a cheap investment. Like I said to you guys in plenty of times before, it's not easy to get a CTP of Rage. Even if you're rolling for one, you're spending the crystals to go inside the shop when they pop up in the CTP pulls. It's not easy. You know, like getting an egg is a lot easier. You know, there's a lot of value there for a free-to-play player by pulling an egg, but pulling this CTP, not so much. So basically, you've got a CTP that is not rewarding players the value that it basically should be by investing into this. Because basically, if you were to look at this, this is probably like, just to get one, you're probably looking at maybe like about, let's say 6,500 crystals at max. That means that in order to roll into one, 6,500 crystals to smash two of these together, you're basically looking at a lot of freaking crystals, 13,000 to get a chance at either one of the other, a mighty or a brilliant CTP. And that's where the problem is that you're penalizing the player base for doing this, right? So it's like really crazy. This, along with the nerf to Hulk, is just pissing players off right now for this update. Not to mention, like I said, you've basically got a T4 that was very lackluster and a tier 3 that's actually pretty good, and then you've got two other paywall characters behind this. I'm not surprised with the update though. If you know, you know. Anyways, so that's what's going on with your CTP of Rage. So it should have been something that should have been, you know, really cool in my opinion, that we were finally getting the CTP of Rage, which is the best PvE in in-game item for most characters to use in-game. But no, alas, we end up with a broken CTP, and Netmarble's means to address this does not seem to be addressing it. I think I watched a Cynic Alex video last night or something like that, and he was still reporting that even after the fixes, you still were basically, you know, Moonbro, free to play, and you know, these are the guys at beast mode. These are guys that do like comparison videos when new characters get uniforms, and it's very easy to see, you know, the leveling of those characters when you put a CTP of Rage on there versus a brilliant CTP, and see there's no effect on the character. You know, the time that it takes you to complete the same level of content doesn't get completed in any quicker time. We kind of know that these numbers aren't working, especially when numbers are flashing above the head and you can watch the numbers flash and go, there's no change. There's no change. So 300% of nothing will still be 300% of nothing. That is essentially what you're looking at here. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think there's a lot of players within the, you know, the greater population of players for the game that are basically going to be trying to roll brilliant CTPs of Rages and stuff like that, because, like I said, Rages are pretty hard to obtain. However, eggs aren't. Eggs are pretty easy to obtain. Like these things come in a lot of different flavors. They can drop in legendary battles for you. They can drop in Dimension Mission, which hidden tickets. So eggs, these guys right here, they come by. You could get a CTP of refinement like that can happen. A lot of free-to-play players, like I remember when I was first starting out playing this game, I think there were a lot, I had a lot of CTP of eggs, right? There were a lot of them. And the really great part about the CTP of egg is, like, let's take a look at these. You can go into Mighty or CTP of Refinement. You can get the stats here. So like your max options on a CTP of Refinement is Vitality for recovery by HP 15% with an additional for concentration. You can look at the Brilliant CTP, get a recovery by 25% and an additional 50% of concentration. Those are really good stats, not to mention your base level stats. If you look at these across the board, they're like recovery of 20% and recovery of 30%. And you can see that Brilliant right there has a recovery rate of 103.5, and this one has a recovery rate of 90. By comparison, you would look at a CTP of Regen, for instance, right? And if you were to look at the CTP of Regen, you would see that, let me pull this bad boy up, a CTP of Regen, and you can look at its options and you can see like, hey, you're getting that max HP up by 25% and you're getting the 80% recovery rate increase. But when you look at the Brilliance on there, you can still see that like the only thing you're losing out on between the egg and the refinement now is some of that guard break immunity there. I mean, there's going to obviously be a little bit more benefits there to utilizing a CTP of egg or CTP of Regen over a CTP of Egg. I'm interested to see how this works out for a character like Hulk though. Like if you could get somewhat of the same effects, or if not better effects, from a CTP of Egg equipped to him versus a CTP of Regen, because you're getting that max HP up in there by 39.1% at a brilliant, and you're still getting the recovery rate at 103.5%. But then if you notice down at the bottom, you're getting a recovery of 30% instead of what's there before, and it's happening at 50% instead of 40%. So I'm interested. I mean, you know, the change out here is that you don't get the guard break immunity and the penetration, but you do get that vitality, which recovers HP all the time inside there. So a concentration build for a character like Hulk could make him very powerful. Is also, you know, looking at the recovery effect, while you lose out on that shield, you do still gain the barrier for 10 times. Do you really need that when you're constantly recovering? You got the vitality. So I'm interested to see how this works out with Hulk ultimately. But it's very odd, I think, to the players that, you know, this is happened the way it has happened with the CTP of Rage, because you would have Netmarble, the developers, look at the game and actually tell players this is working as intended. And for all outlooks, there's no way that this should be working as intended. But either way, like I said, I don't really see any reason to actually roll the CTP of Rage in the instance that how it's working currently. There doesn't seem to be any greater benefits that, you know, they have expressed to the players appropriately. If there's something missing that we don't know about, it's on their behalf to tell us, so that way this is just not shrouded in mystery. But on top of that, like I said, the CTP of Rages are pretty expensive to obtain, so you know, I wouldn't necessarily do it. Like, I wouldn't smash those together, you know, not as quickly as I would smash 2 CTPs of Refinement together, or a CTP of Greeds together. You know, like, I wouldn't do that. It's, nah, bro. I can't see doing that. I just, they're too expensive. So it's just, I know players think that that's going to mean that it only affects the whales, but it affects you too, because it's game items released the way they, you know, they like, put it this way, if they can get over on this one, what else can they get over on? Like, so you don't want to be in the camp that's saying like, oh, it is only affecting the whales, because it doesn't just affect the whales, it affects you, the player, too. Because if they can pass off CTP or Rage, Brilliance, and Mighty effects as it's working as it intended when we know it's not, then they can do even worse to you, the free-to-play player, because they can do things that you might not notice so quickly. Like, imagine they did that with a CTP of A. So just take that into consideration. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, peace.